Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, brought to you by Reckless Coffee Roasters. It's Monday. Grumpy is in full effect with some Reckless coffee inside, and so excited about today's show. I've never been so excited about a show. With us,
So much pressure now.
Chef Mateusz, if you will.
Yeah, that's a name. That's the name. That's what I should have put in my banner instead of trick or treat. But I just, Halloween's tomorrow. Everyone's dressing up. I'm cosplaying as a restaurateur, so it should be a good time. And thank you, Reckless, for the call.
By the way, are you dressing up for Halloween tomorrow?
Not tomorrow, but I did on Saturday.
As?
So, quick story here for everyone. We didn't know about this party until the week of, and every day we went back and forth like, yeah, we really don't want to go. Saturday rolls around, we finish eating dinner. It's about 5:15, 5:30. This party starts at 7.
Wait, what? You guys finished eating dinner at 5:15, 5:30?
On Saturday? Yeah, I work till 4 on Saturday. I come home and then we eat dinner.
God damn, that's early, man. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, well, Polish cuisine a bit earlier than most, I'd say.
And so 5 o'clock is early, dude. That's like grandma time for dinner.
What? No, it's like 3 o'clock. What are you talking about?
I know we eat dinner late. We usually eat around like 7, 8 o'clock or whatever, which is I know is late for most people. But 5 o'clock, god damn. Okay, keep going. Story was only getting better.
Well, then we were sitting there going, you know what? Do you want to go? And I kind of wanted to go because I kind of wanted to see some of my friends. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So we had, I guess, an hour to think of something. And from where Michelle was sitting, she was looking out into our outside, and we have a garden, and there was a bunch of kale that we still have. So I went as a garden. She took some kale, tied my hair up, put kale through my head, and then put makeup on my face, looked like dirt, and I just wore all brown. And she was a gardener. And I went as a garden, and she went as a gardener. And that was our Halloween costume.
Yes, I don't know how much faith this puts into the menu coming up, but okay.
Best believe there's kale in there.
I was trying to get rid of that kale that you grow in the garden. Okay, it makes sense. It makes sense. Good weekend overall. A lot of a story that we did not get to. So we'll talk about that. But obviously, this is the biggest story. And I thought, as of this morning, when I looked to get a final update kind of thing, that this thing with Luis Diaz was done. But now I'm finding out that it's not, because there was a rumor yesterday saying, the father was also rescued, and he was, there was a shooting, 2 people were dead. That's the last thing I had read. But now we're finding out. I mean, this thing came out, Friday late night, right? Because, we had already, or was it Saturday? We had predicted lineups and everything. And then this came out afterwards.
Friday night, yeah.
Yeah, so Friday late night our time, right?
Yeah,
and then I know the mom was found and rescued, and I was thinking more about what I read yesterday midday was that the father was also saved. There was a shooting, 2 people were dead, blah blah blah. But I'm now reading this morning that they're still looking for the father.
Yeah, allegedly that they have crossed over the border to Venezuela with the father, and at this point, it's an even more difficult situation because the Colombian authorities, I guess, have no authority to do anything once they cross the border. So it's becoming a bit more of a difficult situation. I know yesterday during the morning show, I think I said that, emotionally we can understand how difficult of a situation this is, but as far as professionally, then sitting where we are sitting here, it's hard to talk about it without knowing more information, about being more informed. So I think it's difficult right now to really understand what to think. It's obviously a horrible situation one way or the other, yeah. even if the mother's already been rescued, but just knowing that there is a potential that he has crossed the border into another country and is now having less and less chance of being able to rescue is it's a weird looming presence. And yeah, Alan mentioned the $48,000 reward. I think I read 200 million pesos. So I think maybe if that's the
Equivalent kind of deal.
change, yeah, that would be it. But yeah, it's a definitely a difficult situation, and yeah, it's hard to comment on.
I mean, it's crazy because, I can't even imagine. Like, it was really hard. I mean, we all obviously knew he would not just go out there and play.
Yeah.
But, it's hard to even get in the mindset of something like that. It's one thing to have, like a relative, like a father or mom or something like that, like sick in the hospital or something like that, where you can at least say, well, there's nothing I can do over here. And, but like so many unknowns and so much scarier and so much craziness involved. I can only imagine like the mindset of the whole ordeal. And your favorite player, Jota, I thought that was like a nice gesture.
That was a great touch.
Even you liked it coming from Jota. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, you can't hate on this.
I would like to set the record straight on this. I do like Diogo Jota. I just think he gets way too much praise, and we often overlook all of the little bad things that he does consistently throughout a game. That's it. That's pretty much it. I just don't think he's as great as we say he is sometimes.
Oh, I don't put him in the great category. I think he is exactly what he did, right? Like he's gonna be there when that rebound comes to pop that in. I mean, I always go back to, I mean, when you talk greats, like someone like Rush or somebody like that, or even like Fowler, more Rush comes to mind when I mean, you look at Rush's career, and a lot of the goals are probably like tap-ins. You know what I mean? Or like 1v1s and stuff like that. But you got to be there to score those, or you got to know and sense that the rebound is going to go there. I always like tell the story over and over again. I just remember watching this game where shot comes through, bad directing or whatever you want to call it, but it bounces off the goalie and the ball is kind of going wide and there's nobody on screen yet. And you kind of knew as a Liverpool fan who watches the game and who watches Rush, he's going to be the first one showing up on there. And he shows up and then, like obviously like taps it in. It's just like, I get that sense with Jota where he just knows where to be. And it's just not luck that he's in like a specific spot. So
yeah, you have to have the intelligence and the situational awareness to know where to be. And that's something that some strikers lack. And that's something that some strikers are incredible. Like Erling Haaland, he's a great finisher, but he touches the ball maybe 5 or 6 times a game. But when he does, it's going on goal through at least half of those times because he puts himself in the right positions.
And I think, I agree to that. I think it's just a matter of knowing he's a goal scorer, I think, more than anything else. But he does do, I mean, the game he scored last week where he basically just took the whole thing on all the way and scored on Thursday. And then obviously he scores a very crucial goal. I mean, that goal, we'll talk about the game in a little bit over here, but I felt like the moment that one went in, I was like, okay, we got this, just because of how the game was going. Ryan says Jota does have more goals and assists than Rashford in the same amount of games. Not sure that makes him great, just saying. And I think it might not make him great, but the way Rashford is promoted or spoken of, and I like Rashford, is probably one of the, I was going to say one of the few, but probably the only player that like in that United squad that I would be like, you know what, we'll take him, kind of a guy out of that squad. When you look at the United squad, probably the only guy that I would not mind taking over, kind of thing. And I know Rashford can do more, has more speed and stuff like that. But in terms of productivity, you would not guess that if he didn't give that stat.
Right. Yeah, no, you wouldn't at all. Because of, like you're saying, because of how they're talked about. It helps that Rashford's English, right? So he's always going to get a little bit more of the accolade. The English tax even goes into the amount of goals and assists you provide. It inflates in even though it doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, Football Flashback says, in a good mood because I won my bet this weekend that Salah would score. Man, who took that sucker bet? Or what were the, like, you had the odds on that has to be not that good in terms of returns, but it is actually, maybe we should do more of those safe bets. I tell you guys one thing, don't bet on goddamn NFL because it is just, It is just a trap, if anything. I should get something for these parlays where I get every single one wrong. I think that should be like they were like, you know what, man? Here, you take your money
Here's
back.
a pity dollar. You got them all right in the wrong way.
So we'll get to the game, and more importantly, we got to get to the biggest thing that everybody is gathering around for. I'm just kind of like waiting till we get the full traffic in here, all the regulars in, so we can do the unveiling of the menu for the Polish Turkish. We will have actually, yeah, we should have a moment of appreciation. But then suddenly, I liked how everybody turns from in one game against Forest at home. We went from Virgil is done to Virgil is back and better than ever within one game. It's just like the overreaction kills me. But we never got to this crazy story about last week when this story came out. Actually, Ellen, I think, sent it
Oh
to
my
me
god.
as well. So I don't know if you heard about this or not, but in during practice, as like he doesn't get a foul or something like that in the scrimmage, I assume. And then once I think it's done, from what I read from the story, I don't know how accurate it is, but the manager is like saying like he's being a crybaby, complaining about a call or something like that during the scrimmage, and yeah, Sacco grabs him and grabs him by the collar, and I heard like Sacco is a big dude, so Sacco I don't know. How big the manager is, I didn't look it up, but he can fling you around. I would think he can definitely fling me around easily. You're a lot bigger dude than I am, but does this speak to? I mean, I think we talked about it a few months back. I think it was on the Monday podcast about Klopp and how he's been able to make everyone buy in. And when he first came over, everybody buy in, good or bad, got the most out of everybody and stuff like that. This was the exception, dude. And do you think now, looking back, I mean, we know what he is as a personality and stuff like that. He was, I don't know. I know as a manager, when you go in, you always got to make a few examples. Was he the perfect guy that Klopp made an example of to get his message across?
Probably, yeah. And then this just further evidence, like you're saying. And and there's other situations too, like Coutinho, right? Well, he was a great player, but if he wasn't really going to be there for the team 100% day in, day out, then that was another example of, well, we don't really need anything. We don't need that kind of mentality here where you're just using this as your next stepping stone. This is meant to be the pedestal you want to get to. And I think ultimately the manager does have a lot to do with that. And because the manager is then he's allowing, it's sort of like in the workplace when you're managing, your tolerance for things will allow certain people to do certain things. But your tolerance should also be equal for everyone, where you expect the same out of everyone. And if someone isn't willing to buy into that, or if someone is crossing that line, they're not someone that you want on your team, in your office, blah, blah, blah. I think there's a lot of parallels between managing a personality of athletes and managing a personality of just your normal day-to-day people. Because ultimately, both human beings on either side, both doing a job. Yes, one might be a little bit more exciting than the other, but I think overall it just comes down to, like you're saying, the buy-in and being there and having the right kind of personalities that want to play with each other and not just for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Football Flashback talks about this. Like, since Klopp has managed Liverpool, he's never, to my mind, signed a player with a bad attitude or big ego. The attitude, no. I was trying to think of ego, and I don't think I can think of one of those either, because confidence and ego are different things. But can you think of anybody?
Maybe, and this might be overreacting right now because it's still early, but maybe Carvalho a little bit, because he kind of came in thinking that he was ready to take over, and he didn't really get the minutes, and then he's been shipped over to Germany, and he's not really getting any minutes there either. And I know that there were some comments on social media here and there about something that Carvalho might have said, but besides that, I can't think of one specifically, but that would be my overreaction to one possibly.
Yeah, I took that more as like a I don't know if it's like an ego or it's like a kids being
probably more
naive
ego,
or getting a big head, maybe. I guess which that would go with big ego. I think going back to the whole Sacco thing, I think it's a matter of kind of like what you're saying, when you're managing a group, it's key that everything is going across the same. And sometimes when you're trying to instill a new culture, you got to get rid of the guy who represents everything that was bad about the old culture. And I remember at the time he was late to a bunch of things and stuff like that, or at least that was used as an excuse overall for his attitude. And he was sent packing. I think they were in the US, right? They were doing like an Alcatraz tour or something like that, and he was sent back after they came back, and then obviously we never saw him again. But I think, is that just luck, or is that because you're bringing, I mean, can we be this lucky, or is it like a college recruitment thing where they look at a player that much and don't go for the risk reward? Or is it just a matter of you bring this guy in and he walks into a totally different culture, so he has to kind of go with the culture, as opposed to, I know Football Flashback was bringing the match, example of United, where you're bringing this ego and he's walking through that chaos, so he just kind of like goes as he was.
And yeah, at what point is it a coincidence, right? And
Yeah.
at what point is it intentional? And I think maybe there could be a side to recruiting that we are not familiar with. There could be a side of recruiting that keeps track of how they interact, not when they're on the pitch, but just off the pitch when they're subbed off, or if they're coming off the bench, or if maybe if their family comes to games, if the recruiter, someone who's ever watching them, is able to sit near the family and just kind of get a sense of what kind of person that is. I don't know. Like I'm grasping at straws here to find out why certain clubs are much better at this recruitment side of things, but maybe part of it is just more intentional digging of a player overall, and not just what he does on the pitch, but what he does off the pitch. So I think if being around friends or family, and maybe even just not interviewing for lack of a better word, but kind of just questioning those people and seeing what he's like, maybe that's part of it that we don't know about.
And I know, like in the NFL, for example, like when they're drafting people, obviously a lot going into it. And I know, they look at it where, they look at everything of these guys before they draft, and their family, blah, blah, blah. There's like private investigators, all kinds of stuff. And I almost feel like that's part of it. Probably you are looking into it, but it has to, I mean, you can't be hitting 100% on that still. I still go back to, once you form an environment where that's not going to happen, the environment takes care of itself. Like when you have leaders in the locker room who are saying, hey, that's not how we do things around here. I mean, I always go back to, like Patriots would always get these guys who are trouble elsewhere. And that suddenly the guy becomes like a team player. And I
Yeah.
think if you have like a locker room that's already doing well and full of leaders, maybe when you bring somebody you might have slightly missed on, he automatically kind of blends in. But to be fair, obviously there's a lot less number of recruiting going on in soccer compared to like a football team or something like that. So maybe it is easier when you're bringing in only 4 guys every year or 3 guys. Maybe it is easier to make sure like the
Yeah.
character is there.
Rather than 20 or 30 guys that
Yeah.
also end up on the practice squad and you make cuts every other week. Yeah.
So let's go to the game. What did you think of it overall? Kind of like touch up on that. Obviously, Football Flashback was talking about Van Dijk.
Yeah.
Weird performances throughout.
Van Dijk, obviously comfortable. Nice to see him. Everyone's saying he's back. It's just one game. As much as I would be excited to say he's back, it was Nottingham Forest. The defense overall was I think the team overall in the first half was really good. Second half was a bit dull, I would say. I just felt like it was almost cruise control, especially after that second goal. And there really wasn't. This was one of those games that you love where you just sit back, there's no stress, and you're like, all right, essentially just going to wait for this to end here because there's nothing going on. I'm not worried one single bit. So I think it was a very comfortable game. I think that's how those games should go. We shouldn't have to have those heart-clenching games against the likes of the bottom 6, 7, 8 clubs in the league, right? You should be able to win those games comfortably if you want to consistently challenge for the title and have a chance throughout the year. So I think overall it was a good game. Great tribute from Jota, obviously. Couple of weird moments with Turner. I think there was someone on Jota's goal saying that Turner had a howler. It was like, well, there was nothing else he could have done. Now Mo's goal, that was bad, but that was miscommunication more than anything. I think someone then posted in the U.S. group about how Turner doesn't get any crap because he's American, and it's like, what are you talking about? It's just you're making ridiculous problems out of nothing just for the sake of social media. So yeah, it's overall it was good.
By the way, I wanted to bring this up because Gally, yeah, I think the Sancho situation, I think that is a perfect example because I 100% agree that if I don't know if he would be a great player, blah blah blah, but the same drama would not have happened here. I think for the first goal, going back to the goal, the way that is a smart shot by Nunez there. I mean, there's a lot of things that Nunez did that game that won't get seen. But that's a smart shot because that's why you shoot towards that side instead of first of all, the tight corner that the goalie is going to protect. You're like an ex-goalie. So that's like obviously the first one you're going to protect.
I don't protect either post. I just stay in the middle.
Stay in the line in the middle.
Just shoot it.
I got this. But I think because when the rebound comes, that's where it's going to go. Whereas if you to the front post, if you take a crack at hard shot there, which he did, I think, earlier in the game, that is going to be usually going to go to the corner or going to kind of bounce back towards you. So that's a smartly executed shot. It either goes in or that's what happens. And then we talked about Jota earlier. He's the guy to be there. And that's not just like, oh, he's so lucky. That's the guy. He knows as he's seen that Jota as a player and a finisher, he knows that if there's a rebound coming off of this is where it's going to be. And then he just like shoots it in. And I thought
like the Dennis Rodman of
yes,
just knows where the rebound's going to be. That he wasn't the biggest guy. He wasn't the most athletically gifted guy, but he knew where to be all the time.
Yeah, and I know that third goal, and it was bad. I mean, like Chris, like Ryan are saying it was bad. But I think you can kind of tell there is miscommunication there, and I almost feel like the dude is about to head it. He's called off of it because the defender's reaction afterwards is like, "Why the hell did you call me off if we're gonna let that thing bounce?" And I think Turner totally misjudged it. That's all on Turner. I know. And then I saw that post, and then people were trying to protect Turner and put it on the defender. And I was like, no, it's not. I mean, it's Turner, but it doesn't make him like the worst goalie ever. Every goalie makes a mistake. Yeah. I mean, I even like commented on that same post. I think that, like Ellison has made some ridiculous howlers as well. I can think of at least 2, 3. But when your body of work is so excellent, you can get away with those and you can get excused for those. And I thought Turner overall had a good game, really. But
I thought so too. And
overreaction.
And for that third goal, given what Cody False 9 is saying regarding Soboslai's assist, yeah, I mean, he is just an absolutely full all-around midfielder that we have missed for so long. And I don't think we haven't had a midfield like this that I've been so excited about since probably Gerard Mascherano and Xabi, honestly. I can't think. Yes, forward-wise, I've been excited, right? When you had Mane, Firmino, and Salah. But the midfield, Hendo, Fab, and Gini was incredible, but they weren't so exciting. But they were really good at their jobs. And I respect, obviously, it worked because they won titles. They won trophies. So that worked. It just wasn't so exciting. Whereas now with Gravenberch, with McAllister, and Soboslai, there's just those 3 guys are capable of doing so much more than just their specific role that it makes it for a really interesting watch because it could go both really well or really, really poorly too.
I think in terms of like when they have the ball, and Steven says goalkeepers are heroes or villains, nature of the job. And yeah, I mean, that's basically how it goes, right? And I mean, you were a goalie, more power to you because I would never be, because it's not like a striker either. Like a striker can go being from a villain for 85 minutes to suddenly being the hero because they scored the winner at the end, and everything will be erased. The goalies don't get those chances either, because if you were a villain the whole game, the game is probably over by now anyway because you screwed up so many times. But yeah, going back to what you're saying about the midfield, I think there's like this where when you talk about the older
VP and
midfield,
Amoco got
What are you watching on the side? What are you
that
doing?
was not me, man. That had to be you. Nice try, though.
What?
Okay. Um, I felt like, with the midfield we have now, I mean, the older midfield that everybody considered boring, it was more like a blue collar, and it was more about that front three that was exciting, and their job was more like to grab the ball, get it to one of those guys in a good situation, let him go to work, is what it felt like. Whereas now, you don't know what you're going to get out of these guys in terms of like attacking, and that makes us, I think, harder to defend. Having said that, though, what did you feel about the game until we scored the goal? Because let's face it, we scored that goal more on the fact that Forest got a little cocky there, like with their center back kind of like pushing up,
Yeah.
and then that's the situation you did not want to be in. And to be fair, we capitalized on it instantly. But what were you feeling like until that goal came?
I guess it was there was a sense of frustration, but it never felt. I feel like what we were watching, it never felt like the club had to get out of second gear. And while it was frustrating to not see an end result in the goal specifically, I think overall I still felt pretty comfortable. It was just, I think maybe part of it was just because they were going towards the cop end in the first half, and everything just felt a little weird anyway. I don't know. I don't know if anyone else felt the same way, but seeing them, the whole time I was like, "Is this the second half already?" I had kept checking the clock, going, "Did I miss 45 minutes and I have no idea what's going on?" Because that just you just associate the first half, you go right to left, second half you go left to right, and so maybe I know on the pitch it doesn't matter because you're going one way or the other way. I guess, well, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but maybe it doesn't affect them as much. So
I think there's a psychological factor, though. Like the players
probably a
by
little
now,
bit.
the guys who have been there, maybe not to like a Gakpo or somebody like that, but the guys that have been there, I would think there has to be a psychological. We got this now. Like I don't know why, but I'm sure there's something psychological. I guarantee you there's something psychological on the defensive side of things.
Yeah, I agree, and I think nice thing to point out is McAllister again. This is a second or third time in the last 2 weeks where he's had a challenge that he makes near our box, and his outlet ball is the ball right before the goal gets scored. And I think he's maybe starting to fit in a little bit in that deeper role and kind of understanding where to make the challenge and where to outlet the ball, because I feel like he's been a little bit more comfortable in that sixth role the last 2 weeks or so. And so I think overall it's good. But yeah, it just felt comfortable for me. I don't know. I wouldn't say I was worried at any point. It was just a little frustrating to not see the end product until that Jota goal went in.
Yeah, and then I mean, Ryan, you're right. I mean, this was, I don't know if it's like an ideal game to watch, because it was kind of, I don't want to say boring, but it was just like, oh man, I mean, let's go kind of a thing. But it's weird because watching, Liverpool later on in the day, like right afterwards, I should say, probably like Fenerbahce played. I caught the second half mostly. The first half I was kind of like in between looking here and there. But, they were in the same situation. They were up 2-0, 3-0. It's a bit more of a naive young team. So they kept actually attacking, whereas Liverpool, I feel like, has a bit more of the maturity where they rather stay in control and not go all out to get that third one and just finish off the game. They were totally content passing it around and moving the ball and not really go after him. I honestly think Steven says Forest can frustrate oppositions. They have a technically clever manager, Steve Cooper, who just rebuilt the old squad. I think the biggest thing was having Elanga as opposed to Avane up front, because I felt like, and that's where Van Dijk looked better in the sense that he gets a lot of flack, and he's not. I mean, nobody is the same player they were 3 years ago when he's their age. But I felt like Elanga's biggest strength is speed, and Van Dijk looked like he was back to his old speed dealing with him. Either Elanga is not as fast as I thought, or Van Dijk is gaining his speed back? Which one do you put that on?
I put that one on. I think even in his prime, I don't think Van Dijk was very fast, but he was very intelligent with how
That's fair.
with his angles. So I think he's just sort of like the Thiago Silva thing that we talked about. Where why can't Van Dijk play until he's 37, 38 if he just plays a little differently and understands the game really well. Physically, you can deteriorate a little bit and still play well if you can understand it. And so I think part of it yesterday too was the back line was great at keeping Olenga offside. I mean, maybe it was just Olenga himself that just didn't care enough to time his runs well, but it seemed like the back line was pretty in sync. There was one moment I think Trent was like 2 yards behind every other defender and let in a ball that should have been called back for offside. But other than that, I think this was a good sign of something that we haven't seen for a few weeks, maybe for a few months. Really, is just the defense being on the same page and kind of just nipping any danger right up from the get-go. There was maybe one moment in the second half where there was a little scramble, but other than that, it just never felt like there was any. There was the Alenga shot off the crossbar.
Yes, it looked under control, right? I mean, it just
Yeah.
looked overall under control. And obviously, you're always going to give up something, especially when they go kind of like went a little bit all out in terms of like putting more attacking players in and trying to be a bit more like, attacking mind. But yeah, I felt overall never throughout that game. Once we had the lead, I knew the moment we had the lead, I was like, okay, things are going to get so much easier now. And once two goes in, it just felt like, and I did expect, to be fair, that we would keep going. Like you watched that game afterwards with Fenerbahce and they kept going. It ended up being like five. You kind of want that. But at the same time, at that point, it's like, okay, job is done. 3 points this year. And maybe at that point, the clean sheet means more too. Defensive stability and stuff like that, control in the game, and you get still 3 points and you move on, no injuries and stuff like that. And that was like the best part. Two players I want to focus on, and then we'll get to the main event over here that everybody is waiting for. So the first one is Trent. Is it just me, or Trent's body language just killed me? And I feel like, especially, it's one thing to have that body language as a young player, and he's not so young anymore, so we can probably start squashing that. He's not like 18, 19, 20 anymore. But as a co-captain, I just hate seeing that body language on.
I think the latter is much more serious than the former, like you're saying. You could be 27, 28, 29, not have great body language, but if you are the captain of this team when Van Dijk is not on the field, and there is so much more attention that goes on you. The players look to you, especially like you talk about Chambers and Scanlon and Kwanzaa. You look at those guys who are on the bench watching all of you guys all the time, and you are the inspiration for them. You are the kid that came from the academy. You are the kid who earned his spot. You are now the co-cap. You are the living example of what they could be and what they want to be. If they see that, then that allows sort of that mentality to come in going, okay, well, it's okay to sulk, because Trent sulks. And so I agree. I feel like I was rather disappointed by that. Maybe part of it was because it was such cruise control. I think in a way yesterday felt like everyone wanted a piece of the pie after the second goal. And so everyone stopped playing with each other, and they're like, you know what? I want to take this next shot. I want to be like Harvey came on, and we've given him credit in the past for being a super sub. I think he was pretty poor yesterday when he came on. I think he suffered from one of those moments of, okay, the game's over. I want to score a goal. I want something for me. And so I think that maybe seeped into more players and maybe a bit of Trent. I don't think that's going to be Trent long term. But we have seen moments of Trent like this year ago, 2 years ago, where he gets in this 4 or 5 game mood that is tough to get out of for him mentally. So I'm hoping this is just one of those where everyone felt so comfortable and they just wanted more of the ball.
Yeah, see, I'm not as nice. Ryan says bad game to judge him. I felt he should have not started Thursday. I think he was with Ayumapa. I don't. I really don't. I find that extremely aggravating, to be perfectly honest, because it almost feels like, he is like when the boss's son is at work, like he's not really doing shit. But you got to keep him engaged. You're like, he's not going to defend. So, hey, you want to come over here, play midfield, create with us? We're doing this project. You want to chip in? And then he's just like there. He gets frustrated when he doesn't get the ball. And I know he's trying to move around, so he gets the ball to create. I almost feel like maybe because I'm so against this inverted role for him, but I almost feel like he gets very disinterested now when he doesn't have the ball. And now he doesn't have to defend anyway somehow. So it's just kind of like, he kind of like passed on that responsibility for the most part, which he did do good defensively. I mean, it's not like he lacked defensively, but it's like this interest overall and his body language. I honestly, like, walking away from the game, that was like the biggest negative I took from that game was how Trent carried himself throughout the game and really what he did. And the good things he did always came when he was on the wing again. And he's just crowding up the middle unnecessarily, I feel like, for like McAllister. You know, I guess he doesn't enable Soboslai to go wide because Trent is inside. You saw Soboslai get the ball a lot more in the wing and like
Mhm.
go at players or cut in. But still, I really would rather have Soboslai get that ball in the middle than Trent at this point. Well, yeah, that was probably like one negative. Gravenberg, real quick. He obviously, I mean, he played Thursday as well, not the same guy as Thursday. It almost feels like watching this game was more like, hey, yeah, he's the new guy. Because it felt like it, especially when we do those interplays in a tight defense, he was always like half a second late. Like there's that ball that like Mo chips over before he's doing a give and go. It felt like he was half a second late, which I'm assuming once that clicks in, that's crazy.
Yeah, like Klopp said, he's only halfway there, and I think we're seeing the other half that he needs to work on. So it's. I also think maybe could be a little bit tired from Thursday, possibly. He didn't play much at Bayern, so maybe the having enough game stamina is still sort of working on that, especially 2 games within 3 days. But yeah, I felt like it wasn't his best. We all know it wasn't his best game. So I think that's another project that I'm excited to see what happens because we've talked about how exciting it is to get we see the glimpses there. It's just even more exciting to think about what the full finished product can look like.
Yeah.
Especially when your entire midfield is younger than 24 years old. These could be the guys for 5-6 years if you pay them, and you don't have to worry about that. Barring injuries, you don't have to worry about any of these guys for half of a decade, which is incredible.
Yeah, this is amazing to even think of. So this is a good question. I don't think so, and I agree with Hassan on this one. But is he our best player? I say no because I still say Mo. Maybe, I mean, potential wise, maybe you can say Soboslai, but I feel like most presence does so much for everybody else around them. I don't think Soboslai is there yet in that sense,
Yeah,
and he does benefit from Mo's
correct.
presence.
Because I wonder if Mo wasn't there, if Sobo would have the same amount of pitch and the same amount of space if the defenders aren't being drawn away by Mo, like you're saying. So I think if we're talking about impact, I think Mo still holds that. I think Soboslai might be the best player all around when you talk about how he's able to get a box to box. His stamina is insane. His dribbling is great. His ball control is great. His vision's incredible. He can use both feet really well. So I think as an overall player, if you were to go into FIFA and create my player, and you would you pick out all the stats, pick out the height, the weight, and all this stuff, pick out the hair. I think Soboslai could be that archetype that you go for because he's just an all around good player. He's not particularly amazing at one thing. He's good at everything. So, but I do think overall as impact and as someone who's able to give the other players a chance to look even better, Mo is still that guy.
Yeah, I agree. So that I go with the same too. Still most important, just because of like the same reasons.
Allison.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, I can go with that too. That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
question that we gotta pose. The important player, because yes, there are so many games. Heck, even this season that we won, and there's a moment where Ali has kept us in the game and enabled that to happen. This was probably a rare exception, right? This game, I can't remember a moment where it was like 0-0 and like he had to come in and save the day. But I think it has happened. Probably like happens like 75% of the time. I would say. Steven says club will have some difficult decisions to make in midfield. Young and skilled. So yeah, it's definitely a good problem to have. It is definitely a good problem to have, and I feel like we have that up top too, barring injuries and even like something crazy. I mean, I know it wasn't an injury, but something crazy like this happens. It's good to not like be like, oh my god, what are we going to do? And Jota comes in and performs. I was really happy to see Gakpo too. I mean, under normal conditions, I would still like Gakpo to start in a game like this because of the interplay. But I'm assuming he'll get even more minutes now against Bournemouth. I know Football Flashback was asking about it earlier. I think he even like threw out a lineup over here. Gotta scroll through all these messages. But well, let me ask you, what do you expect to see Wednesday? Europa style?
Yeah, I would think so. Because I think even if you find yourself in a little bit of hole, in a little bit of a hole in the first half, you still have the impact guys that you can bring on off the bench for 30, 40 minutes to change the game around if you need to. I like that for the most part. I don't know how much I would like Harvey, Darwin, Gakpo together up top. That looks a little weird for me.
Me off as well.
I like the Endo Jones. I don't think I would put Gravenberch in that. I think Gravenberch needs a rest. So I wonder if maybe we see Endo Jones, Harvey, and then do Gakpo, Darwin. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know.
Honestly, looking at the substitution patterns, if it's going to tell us anything, both Jota and Gravenberch came out in the 60th minute. I don't know. This could also mean that we will see them on Wednesday.
I guess, yeah. So I guess maybe replace Harvey with Jota and just do Jota, Darwin, Gakpo. And,
I can go with that.
Have a little bit of a weaker defense, but you have the goals to make up for it.
Yeah, Bournemouth away. I mean, here's the thing. How much importance do you put into that? And I don't know how Bournemouth's going to approach it either, to be honest with you. But that's
I mean, I think earlier in the season we said that we have the depth to challenge at all four levels. Why not challenge at all four levels then? I don't think I'll be particularly crushed if we happen to come out of the competition, but I do think this should be a winnable game, all things considered, even if we don't have our full starting 11 play.
Yeah, I agree. Ryan says a lot depends on the Diaz situation, but I feel like regardless, even if it gets like hopefully resolved soon over here, I think the earliest we still see Diaz is probably the weekend. Unless he's so relieved that you put him in a sub position or something like that once things get sorted. Let's hope they get sorted. I mean, that's just a very bizarre story. I mean, my buddy is from Colombia, so I was actually like talking to him, and he said like, man, this stuff happens a lot rarer now. I mean, like when we hear something like this, we're like, wow, this stuff happens all the time. He said it was a lot more rare now that compared to maybe how
like
bad
the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, but he's like, yeah, like I was like talking to him, asking about him.
Well, and you never know. Some people they use work to distract them from everything going on at home. I'm not saying this is, you can compare the situation to other situations, but sometimes you might want to go and, as an athlete, go and play the sport that you've grown up playing because that's the one thing that you know right now, and that's the thing that makes you feel comfortable. It's despite all of the uncomfortability and the uneasiness going around. So, obviously, I don't expect him to be back, but if I do see him back, I can see it being because of that.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? I even contemplated that, but I don't know if the people around you are. I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I go back to like my dad passed away when I was in college. I just wanted to go back. I just want to go back to school. I just want to go back to practice. I just want to play.
Yeah.
Anything but like stop and think, or anything but stop, I guess. Everybody is different, like how they deal with things. B, I don't know, like this is a different situation where there are people around you that's being affected too. Whereas when I
Sure.
go back, everybody around you are like, you know what, if this helps you, you do you, kind of a thing. Whereas now everybody's gonna be like, dude, you're not all there. You should not be doing this and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a harder ordeal. I just don't think. Hopefully he can come back for the weekend. Hopefully it's resolved, and hopefully we're talking about this like tomorrow.
Yeah.
What, because it's resolved, and we're like, will he come back? That's like the ultimate hope. But so let's give the people what they came for. Nobody's here to listen to us talk about Liverpool. I don't think most people are here to listen.
This is what the morning show is all about. When we created the morning show, well, not necessarily we. When the morning show was created, and then a couple years after, we wanted to make it more general, more broad, and you know, and what connects, what's better, or I guess what's the easiest way for people to connect? Through food. It's as old as time, right? We gather around a table and we eat food because that connects us. Food.
What an intro! I can't wait. So
well, we go from sport to food, and so the wrong button. So I would like to present to you.
first of all, how did this even come about? This whole Polish Turkish restaurant thing. I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
Hopefully somebody listening remembers. I don't even know how the conversation. See, Ryan is already waiting for the recipe. I don't even know how it came about that we came up with this concept, but we are doing a Polish Turkish restaurant, and Mateusz's homework and his promise was to bring our first recipe to this episode.
Recipe,
here we go.
Recipe or menu? I did a
What's
menu.
recipe?
We can build the recipe around the menu. Oh, here we go. I think. Well, now that the booze are out of the way, welcome to Pol Turk. I
like it.
I couldn't think of a better name, and it took about 10 seconds, and I thought, you know what went through my head? I thought about Polish and Turkish. I was like, all right, let me combine the two. Pol-ish, fuck. Turk-ish, fuck. So then I took the first letters, and I was like, Turk-Pol? Nah. Pol-Turk? Yes. So welcome to Pol Turk.
Ryan loves the name. I don't know. I'll go with it. I'm not against it. I actually like, and I never thought of this before, is how the red and white automatically works like a charm, since both flags are just red and white.
We were meant to be. We were really meant to be.
This restaurant was just meant to be.
And, you know, I used my artistic creativity and knowledge to create this lovely menu. So this is sort of like this is a tasting menu, I guess I would say.
Oh, okay.
So, and you're gonna have to help me with some pronunciations here, because
okay, let's do it. I'm that's what I'm here for.
For course one, should I have zoom in a little bit?
Yes, there we go.
For course one, we have red lentil soup, which in Turkey is known as mercimek kolbashi.
Not even close. It's mercimek çorbası. Çorba is actually soup, so mercimek is lentil. So
okay. Okay, so could you say that again?
Mercimek çorbası.
Mercimek çorbası. And with thank you. With cut up Polish sausage and beans that are traditionally used in a Polish sort of meat stew. And I thought having that together would be a nice little blend of both of those pieces. So once you try the red lentil soup with Polish sausage and beans, you move on to course number 2, which is sauerkraut and mushroom manti. So dumplings filled with traditional Polish sauerkraut and mushroom with a yogurt sauce, like your manti traditionally has. Am I correct?
Yes, manta has that. That's not my favorite Turkish dish, actually. Is almost like a ravioli kind of thing, but it has like that garlic yogurt and the butter and stuff like that on top. It is delicious.
Yeah, so we're taking a
sauerkraut version.
You have no idea how good sauerkraut and mushroom combination is, because I'm thinking of the Polish dumplings, and so manti for me sort of seemed like pierogi in a way. So if sauerkraut and mushroom pierogi is the best combination in the world, then sauerkraut and mushroom manti might might just be good enough.
I have a feeling Ryan is gonna be like Norm and Cheers in the end of the end of the bar, eating everything on the menu. But yeah, okay. What else?
Well,
you got?
no, you do
I'm
eat
gonna
everything on the menu because this is a tasting menu, so you get all of this.
Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
like when you go to Chicago Restaurant Week, this is what they do. They just throw every course at you.
Okay. Let's go with course 3.
Once we've enjoyed the Monty, we move on to the pierogi kebab, which was a popular choice, right,
Yeah,
for many people here. So potato and cheese pierogi, caramelized onion, beef, and peppers.
See, now that sounds good to me.
On a skewer. And so I think when I was thinking about the kebab, there was either the skewer or the actual sandwich part of things. So I kind of went for the skewer. When I'm thinking of the beef, I'm thinking of the shish kebab that many people are familiar with. So that's sort of what I see in between the pierogi and the caramelized onion and the peppers.
Here's what we'll do. We'll serve it on a warm pita, right? So you can, if you want, do it like roll it up and eat it as like a traditional, like a kebab dürüm, as they call it.
Okay.
Or you can just pull out the butter and knife and butter knife.
Yeah, you could pull out the butter knife if you want.
The fork and knife and eat it normal too. But yes, we can go both. I like this. Now this I can get behind, the pierogi kebab.
So once you're behind and that's in your stomach, you can move on to course 4, which is our lamb gołąbki. So gołąbki, a traditional Polish style dish where it's minced pork and onion and wrapped in cabbage. Taking lamb and onion and wrapping it in cabbage, drizzled with a tomato sauce. So I think having sort of your traditional lamb meat, Turkish lamb, however that's prepared, and having it wrapped in that traditional Polish cabbage, and then having the tomato sauce on top. With actual pieces of tomato sprinkled throughout, I think would be just delightful.
This menu is getting better and better. Actually, like I was questioning the first couple, but we're getting there. We're getting places. These are signature dishes. Build on, yes.
And then lastly,
dessert.
The Polish rahatłukum, which is sort of similar to a Turkish delight. I tried really hard to find a way to combine 2 traditional desserts together. And surprisingly, Turkish and Polish desserts are not very similar. So it was tough to find. I was thinking of maybe ponchki and having a traditional Turkish filling in the ponchki, but everything that I could think of just kind of didn't.
Like a pistachio something inside.
I guess if you think of maybe baklava in that, and then maybe something like that taste of that in the ponchki, that could be nice. But I sort of just went for the easy rahatłukum because it's the same thing as a Turkish delight. And then of course your selection of specialty teas and coffees that would come from India.
Why the hell are they coming from India?
Because there has to be one weird thing on a menu everywhere. Why is this here?
Turkish coffee. Why the hell are you bringing tea from India? Or like,
and yeah, that's the joke. No, it
would be like a Polish tea or coffee kind of a thing, like a warm.
There's herbal teas that are pretty popular in Poland. I have a few downstairs I can bring up, but yeah, it's I don't know. I don't drink tea that much, and if I do drink tea, it's Earl Grey. So I'm not a great great spokesperson for any sort of Polish tea. But there are many herbals that Polish people drink.
Earl Grey is the ugly cousin of teas, I have to say.
Well, I'm the ugly cousin of life, so deal with it.
But yeah, specialties and coffee. Yeah. So Ryan says, let's make this happen. There's 2 hours away from Chicago, which where we both are. And he can cook. Let's do the shit with a beer pairing. Obviously, all selection of Polish and Turkish beers.
Well, you guys can do beer. I'll do craft cocktails.
With lamb golaki?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. I don't know. I don't. Kebab with cocktails? Come on, man.
Well, is this upscale or is this not?
Okay, whoa. So you were saying, you know what? Don't be talking beer down. Mind you, can I say that I despise, as somebody who's Turkish, I despise Turkish delights for some reason. It's one of those things that I just can't do, except the cream fill ones. But yeah, now I'm hungry and ready for breakfast. Alan says the best place for tea is India.
I know.
Honestly, Turkish tea is the only one I know is like the black tea. That's well, basically by the Black Sea. So that's like the classic Turkish tea. But yeah, I'm not bringing coffee from India to a Polish Turkish restaurant. I don't know what the hell that is all about. We'll serve some Turkish coffee for God's sakes for Ryan. But Ryan is gonna cook the stuff for us. So now that we have these out there, I actually challenge Ryan to grab one of them, cook it, and then bring it to the show. Now this will be Ryan.
Well, we should have a live Monday morning show from one of somewhere where we're all there, and then we can just actually we can eat. Just the 45 minutes is just eating.
It would be like actual like prep work is 45 minutes, eating 15 minutes. Yeah, we can do that. Hey, I'll be all over this kebab concept. I really like that thing in the middle there. The pierogi kebab, I'm sign me up for. Oh, he says he'll help cook. We will all cook. That's some risky business. You're going into uncharted territory there. It's bad enough the recipe. I can, do some stuff, but
I can turn on the oven.
I don't like measurements, and I don't like measuring. So I can make stuff. The bad thing is I can never duplicate the same exact thing. I can get close to it because I put whatever spice that I felt like that day, and I can never duplicate it because I don't have measurements to go.
But
back.
that's how the best food is made. Sometimes you just throw in whatever spices you're feeling and you enjoy it. You don't have to make it consistent. That's part of cooking, is just whatever you're feeling that day, throwing it together.
Ryan says I can chop veggies. I guess. I mean, if that's what it takes. I didn't see a lot of. Yeah. I mean, like I say, some of those dishes I can pass on easily. But you know what? I am all behind this menu. The creativity, the Paul Turk name, I can get behind. Yes, this is a concept that we can build on.
I promised and I delivered for the most part.
Yes. Well, you know what? Yes. For once, you came through. So we got to give you that. Yes.
I'm not selling this to the Saudis. I can assure you that.
Hey, this is the kind of restaurant that can get us generational wealth. How much are we charging for this?
Are we in Chicago?
We are. Yes, we are.
$65.
God damn. Okay. Well,
for all that, that's like $12, $13 a dish, something like that.
I guess that's not bad. Let's start with 65, and then we'll run like if Liverpool wins the weekend, it's
exactly $13
kind of a thing. See, I'll be in charge of the marketing over here. Liverpool wins the weekend, everybody gets a free Turkish delight or something like that. See, Ryan is all for it. That ain't bad, he said. So there we go. The menu is here.
I know restaurants, guys.
Now we're gonna have to go find a place, and then for next week, why don't you bring some cocktails that will go with this? Because since you want a cocktail, I was gonna go with Polish beer, because Polish beer is mostly lagers as well, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm just not a big beer person.
You're just a snob.
I'm much more of a craft cocktail person. No, I'm not a snob, because I'll drink any cocktail. Like when I bartended, all I used to drink was Malort. And if anyone knows what Malort is, they would know that I'm not a snob by any means.
Hassan says, I don't cook. I blend all my veggies and fruits together and drink them. Baltic Porter is Polish as fuck, says Ryan.
Well, there's several really good Polish beer, and there's a Kocim and Tiskia and Zubr. Yeah, there's some good stuff around here.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know. I know I grew up drinking like FS beer, like Pilsen and stuff like that, which are just basically like lagers, and that's probably why I like lagers now. But I'll bring Turkish. Actually, like the kebab should have a traditional Turkish drink of like turnip juice.
You're complaining about sauerkraut and mushroom, and you're bringing in turnip juice?
Dude, turnip juice is delicious. And it goes with kebabs like there's no tomorrow. How about ayran, the yogurt drink? Have you ever had that? It's like basically yogurt, salt, sometimes mint. But it's a drink. Really?
What is it called?
Okay. Well, you know what? Next week, we're bringing drinks. I will bring examples of turnip juice and ayran, and you can bring your cocktails over. Yeah, because these are like things that you would get, like the gang, well, Jasmine, I should say, Jasmine and I are the only ones who will do these drinks. The other two are not huge fans in the family, but turnip juice, especially the hot, spicy turnip juice, is a kebab restaurant classic along with ayran.
Interesting.
Fun
Okay. I
fact.
mean,
Fun
I'm
fact.
I'm not gonna knock it until I try it like some.
Damn, that's a good burn. That's a good burn. I will. I guess I will have to get this damn soup and try it. Actually, the soup I'm not that against, even though I'm not a big fan of beans. That's sauerkrauts and mushroom manta, man. I mean, I
I
don't want
have
to
a
do that to manta. I would just feel dirty.
man, I feel like that could be that's the unsung hero that ties this entire menu together.
Okay, so next week we will bring the drinks too, and then yeah, we're gonna have to find a location and stuff. So I'm hoping sometime by spring 24,
If
we'll get this restaurant to reality.
if all you guys get someone to pay for the most exclusive Patreon, we might be able to open this restaurant by 2047, and you guys will be able to be the first to taste it.
Yeah, well, like the grand opening will be free to those people who did Patreon at the time. So we'll do that. Okay, well, there is that comedy for today, and we'll be back. I'll be back tonight with the Monday Night Podcast. Otherwise, we'll be back Wednesday right before the game over here. It'll be a pre-match and a morning show rolled into one with Gordo and John in the morning. You guys have an awesome week. Wait for more recipes and drink specials from this morning show. But have an awesome week, everybody. Take care.